Okay, we've done surface area now. We've done like basic shapes, which was like rectangular prisms. Those were kind of simple. All the sides were pretty much the same, and you had squares or rectangles on the sides. It was pretty straightforward. Yesterday we did, and by yesterday I mean 2 days ago, because it's here every second day, we did triangular prisms. So the difference was that you had triangles on the top and bottom or on the sides, and then you had still rectangles. Today, we're going to do cylinders, which means that you'll have circles on the top or the bottom. So if you were to draw out the three things that we've done, first one had squares, top and bottom like this, or a rectangle. Yeah, either way. Then we did triangles. Today we're doing cylinders. Cylinders is probably the hardest one because people can recognize the circle part. Like that's usually pretty straightforward. They see the circle on the top, they see the circle on the bottom. That's simple. What they struggle with is the around it, right? The part in the middle. The part in the middle is a rectangle, even though it's hard to kind of envision as a rectangle. So if you pretend you had a soda can, it's a cylinder, right? And if you cut the top and cut the bottom, and you're left with just the cylinder part, and you detached it, so you like sliced it right down the middle, and you folded it out, you'd be left with a rectangle. So that's exactly what a cylinder is. Circle, circle with a rectangle that's just been bent around in a big circle. When we look at a net, it looks like this. Okay, this is kind of what I'm describing. This is like the top of a soda can, the bottom of the soda can, and this is the part that goes around. It's just been bent around and curved to make that cylindrical shape. Fantastic. That means what we're going to do for surface area of a cylinder is we're going to do a circle, and then a rectangle to keep things nice and simple. The circles will, I think, always be the same for us. I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure they'll always be the same. Otherwise, don't have a rectangle, which is much harder. So we're going to say, yeah, they're always the same. And the rectangle is just going to be length times width, which we've already done a lot of. So you guys should hopefully be good at it. If you forgot your formula for a circle, it's right here. Area of one circle. That's pi times r squared. R is the radius. Radius is from middle of the circle out. Just in case you forgot what a radius was. If you want to do area of two circles, what would you do with that? Times it by 2. So the area for two circles is this guy right here. 2 pi r squared. Keeps it pretty simple. The rectangle is just our length times width. A little bit more awkward because it's something that's been folded around. Right? So the length and the width aren't always given to us. Instead of saying length and width, we're going to talk about the height of the cylinder or the height of the can. I like to use cans as an example because it's kind of what everybody gets. And then the width is a little bit harder because the width is the around part of the circle, right? If you curved it all the way around the circle. Anybody remember what that word's called if you measure on the outside? Yeah, it's the circumference of a circle. Good job, Dan. So the circumference of the circle is the width. The height of the can or the height of the shape is the length. So if we're thinking about this, I'm going to highlight in red. The rectangle is length times width. But we're going to adjust that to say that it's height times the circumference, where this guy is the circumference. That's the formula for it. Please do not trust my spelling of the word circumference.
It's right there.
Is it? Did I spell it right? Circumference. I'm just going with France. Looks good.
It's right there.
Is it there? It's on the net. Was I right? S-I-R. Oh, France, not France.
I'm going to spell it France.
You know what? This isn't English class. Fantastic. Cylinders won't be that hard as long as you can envision what it creates. Circle, circle, rectangle. and life will be okay. Let's try it. We got a cylindrical shape here, a cylinder. This one right here. We're going to break it down into its circles and a rectangle, and then add it all up, kind of like what we've been doing the last couple of days. So it says the surface area of the circles would be 2 times pi times r. That would be 2 times pi times r squared. R represents the middle of the circle to the outside edge. Looking at this shape, they're telling you right now that 8 is the radius. Middle of the circle to the outside edge. So 2 times 8 squared. Now with this stuff, with cylinders in particular, because we're using pi a lot, then you're going to have to round. Because pi is an irrational number, right? It goes forever. So you're going to get decimals. We'll round to the nearest tenth. It should tell you on a test. It would say round to the nearest whatever. So for us, if we put this in our calculator, 2 times pi times 8 squared, you should get 402 point, and we're going to say 1. It is 12 yards. Yeah.
I know the first 100 digits.
I know, that's impressive.
My friend knows the first 1,000.
That's cool. I know like 2, 1, 4.
I know nothing.
Preach. 402.1. That represents the circles, right? The top and the bottom of our cylinder. We now want to do the rectangle. The area of the rectangle is the height of it times the circumference of it. The circumference is 2 times pi times r. So for us, if we wanted to find the measurement of this can, we would go 2 times pi times 8, because that's the radius, times the height. In this question, it's 11. I'm signaling it out just because I really want you to see, right, that means circumference, which is just the length or the width, depending on how you want to look at it, the width of our rectangle in our can. If you throw that in your calculator, 2 times pi times 11 times 8, 552.9. We then take our top, our bottom, and around the outside, and we add it together. When we add it together, we get 955. And it's 0.0. You don't. I'm just putting it there in case people are like, why didn't you do a decimal place? You did a decimal place before. Right? Just to see it worked out perfect. Yeah.
What's that say?
Which one? The one in black?
Yeah.
It says 402.1 plus 552.9 equals 955.0. Yeah.
How did you get, like, oh wait, I missed it. I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
It's probably a good question. Why isn't it working? There we go. Okay. Try another one. We have a cylinder here. Looking at that cylinder, there's 2 pieces of information they have to give you to be able to do these questions. They have to give you the radius, and they have to give you the height. Looking at this question, that's my radius. That's my height. They have to provide those 2 things on a cylinder. If they don't, then you got to maybe get creative to figure it out. But it should always be there. Yes.
They could also give you diameter to check you out, right?
Yeah, and that's how you could get a little creative, right? You take the diameter and you cut it in half, and maybe it works out better. All right, we'll do one more together. So we have a cylinder. We break it into its shapes. We're going to do the circles first, top and bottom, and then we're going to do the round the outside. The top and bottom, the circles, the formula is right here for you. 2 times pi times r squared. So we're going to go 2 times pi times, we already said that r is 1.5. So 1.5 squared. We then throw that in our calculator. We'll round to the nearest tenth to get 14.1. For the curve around the outside, kind of like the label of a can, you want to do the circumference. Circumference equals 2 times pi times r times the height of the can. So we want to go 2 times pi times 1.5 times 4.1. If we put that into our calculator, we get 38.6. By adding those together, you would get your total surface area for this cylinder. You get, wait, what did you get?
52.7.
Okay, yeah, I thought you said something. I thought you said 452.7. I was like, I don't know how you got that one. That's a big number. So you go 14.1 plus 38.6, and it will equal 52.7. Surface area of a cylinder. I always just say cans because it makes my life easier. Cans. All right, I'll help you start this question, and then you're going to try it on your own. So they're asking for the surface area. That's the top, the bottom, all the way around the outside edge. I know that the two things I need to be able to do this is the height and the radius. Looking at this question, they clearly give me the height. It's right there. However, they have not told me the radius. The radius is from the middle to the outside edge. Yeah, Brax.
Isn't the radius just 5.2 divided by 3?
Exactly. So if you look, they gave you from edge to the middle to the other edge. And they said that was 5.2. The radius is only half of that. So if you go 5.2 divided by 2, that would tell you what your radius equals. In this case, it's 2.6. You must always have your height and your radius to be able to do questions. Fantastic. I want you to try to fill out these 3 blanks. So do the circles, do the around the edge, the rectangle, and then do the total. I'll give you about 5 minutes. With that answer, make sure in your calculator that you're squaring the right number, right? It's 2.6 squared. You don't want to do all the calculations and then square it. Otherwise, you're going to get a really big number probably, right? So the way that you might need to put in your calculator is you do the 2.6 squared, then times by pi, then times by 2. And if you need to break it down into chunks like that, that's okay. Yep. I put this part in my calculator. 2 times pi times 2.6 squared.
So,
If your pi won't work, then I'll help you out after.
so that's just the answer for number 1.
That's just for the circles. Right? That's the area of the top circle and the bottom circle. The formula for around the edge is 2 times pi times r times h. If you had put that in your calculator, 2 times pi times r times h, you should have got, which is 2.6 and 4.3, 70.24601173. Now, I understand your calculator might not have given you all those digits, but it should have given you a lot of them. Right? Maybe yours stopped after the first 0 or the first 1 or something like that. But you should have got something very close to that. If you're using 3.14 or not all the digits of pi, you wouldn't have got that. You would have got something different. Yes, Joey?
Yeah, it does.
I didn't square the first one, but it's still got the same answer.
Yeah? You got 42.47?
No, I got 70 there too when I times.
Is it 70?
Yeah, there is no square in that formula.
Oh, I did.
That's why. Yeah. So if you look at this formula, there's no square. This formula, the one in blue, there is a square. Okay. Previously, what we would have done is we would have just called the blue one 42.5. And the red one, we would have called 70.2. And then we would have added those rounded numbers to get 112.7. Now, reality is if you do that, you'll be right most of the time. However, you're leaving yourself up to the risk of making a minor mistake. When we round, you want to round your final answer. You don't want to round the parts that add up to it. So what I actually put in my calculator is this entire blue number plus this entire red number. And then I'm going to round that answer. If you didn't get that many decimal points, so maybe mine stops, right? Maybe I only have 4743. That's fine, right? As long as you have about 5 decimal places, 4 or 5, that should be lots. Get you.
So let's say you're wrong by like 1 decimal. Are you gonna have to round?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Yes.
Are you gonna drink it?
Yes. Yeah, like the rounding part of it is important, right? So that's why I'm kind of stressing right now. Add both numbers completely and then round. So if I added those together, I would have got, give me 1 second. I would have got 112.7203444. That's the answer I'd want to round, and I'd get 112.7 as my final answer. If you look, they're actually the same. But it might not always be that way. There is the chance that you would have had to round that to 112.8 in my version. So be very careful on your rounding. Don't round to your final answer. That's kind of the general rule of thumb. Yep.
If you were not rounding to the nearest tenth, wouldn't it be 70.3? Because the 6 between the 4 and 2 are 5, and the 5 between the 2 and 2 are 3, right?
So you're looking at the red answer?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're looking at the red answer, and I was just asking to round to the nearest 100th or 10th, which one do you want? This is a very good question. Yeah, you just give an example.
So I was gonna say, like, because the 6 there, 70.246.
So the 6 rounds the 4 up to 5, 5 rounds the 2 up to a 3.
Yeah.
Okay, I get what you're saying. And that's like a common issue with rounding, is that people, like, they over round things. So this question said round to the nearest 10th. This, which I'm underlining in green, is the 10th digit, the 10th place. When you're rounding, you only ever round once. So you just look next door. If it's 5 or greater, then you round up. This is 4, so it just stays that way at 70.2. You did the double round, where you then looked at this guy, you rounded the 4 up to 5, and then you rounded the 5 up to the 3, right? So that's kind of a normal thing that people fall into, is they do extra rounding. You should only ever round once on a question, and that should hopefully save you from making that mistake. Awesome. Example 4.